second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I know we got a time frame here, so why don't we go right to the fire department, we'll come back to the facility uses after. Engineer and.
No, you can start, I'll defer to the chief.
First, I want to apologize for Chief Hoyt not being here. He had scheduled a class online with the National Fire Academy that they wouldn't want to reschedule, so I apologize for him not being here.
And John Blanchester is on shift.
On shift.
John Blanchester was scheduled last night, but he's on shift tonight, so John
Understand, no
Blanchester
problem.
wasn't a firefighter, but that is where John is, but we are here with our data.
So, over the last 9 months or so, a committee of people at the fire department have been working on the replacement of engine 5. Going through a bid process, I wrote a little brief synopsis in there as to why we went the direction we did. We were kind of guided by outside agencies that have gone through an RFP, because RFP is kind of the standard way to buy a fire truck. And the concern with an RFP is that you create a list, it goes to everybody gets your prices back. It speaks nothing to service, it speaks nothing to the quality of the truck, the quality of the build, it's they can check these boxes. So we thought for the 25 years potentially we're looking to get out of this truck, some in-person conversations, some looking at trucks, developing a relationship with a sales representative, developing different relationships with service departments to understand how big their service fleet is, what they offer for service, was important. When it comes down to a fire truck, the service is as not, if not more important than the truck itself, because every one is a one-off, they're all custom. So the service was huge, so that's why we went the direction we did. Significantly more labor intensive. I will tell you, if I had to do it again, it may be easier to do an RFP and be done with it. But I feel very comfortable with all three vendors and all three prices and all three trucks, that they are as apples to apples in a price range that they will come up with. I sent a quick little one-page sheet to Martha the other day, kind of explaining the warranties and really where the Board of Fire Engineers and the fire department were looking. There are three prices. One is $670,000. One was hang on, I got the sheet. One was $668,896. One was $670,000. One was $659,518. So all of the prices came back within less than 1% of each other. After evaluating three binders of material, that's three different trucks, we kind of picked them apart as to what was right, what was wrong, what would have to be added. At the end of that process, we are moving forward and recommending to the Board of Selectmen the KME fire engine. I will tell you at the beginning of this process, I would not have said we would have bought a KME, just knowing that they're normally more expensive. And as this process kind of panned out, they came in at a good price point. Knowing the least about KME, I can tell you I've used KMEs years ago, but I started reaching out to some area departments that have recently, in the last couple of years, purchased KMEs. Salisbury being one of them, Kittery being another one, and then Georgetown, Mass. And they can speak nothing but praise of service, nothing but praise about the apparatus. This was unsolicited. I didn't ask the vendor, hey, give me 3 reps.
Yeah.
I went out and looked to see who bought them. And so I started calling out to different chiefs who bought them and without going through the company to find out, so that it was honest, and I got no negative words about it. So I feel comfortable with it. It's a lot of money, but it's the next 25 years. I'm glad we speak longer about it. I have some agreements that I think legal should look at before anyone moves started forward with them, that I can give to you. My own, absolutely.
Could you, I'm gonna have Pat specifically speak to the service, because the fire engineers discussed these bids as they went along and as information came in as well. And the service with this one was particularly outstanding with the bay of mechanics.
It was.
You could speak to that.
Our ladder truck is an E1. It's a good piece of apparatus. Our service center that we go to is in Brunswick, Maine. They can fit 2 fire trucks inside at a time. It creates a significant backup. We were 9 months waiting for just a punch list of things to get done. The KME Service Center is 18 full-time mechanics. They're in Woodsville, Mass. It's about the same distance, about an hour and 15 minutes away. So going north, going south. That is one of their 3 shops. So when they have an issue with losing mechanics because of COVID or whatnot, they have the ability with their 2 other locations to adjust their workload to get people where they need to be to fulfill orders, which was another issue when COVID hit. And you're a 2-bay shop with 4 mechanics and 2 of them are out because of COVID, it's even slow. So that was another big plus for us when it comes down to that.
3 locations in New England or?
3 locations in, so New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, 3 locations in New England. They are a New England-based company.
Where in Massachusetts?
Woodsville. So it's 495 belt, about an hour and 20 minutes away.
If you, the truck is down for, in type of repairs, we have the other trucks to do the capability of what we need to do, except the ladder truck. I understand.
Correct.
Yeah, I know that my biggest concern is we lost a house in town because the pump didn't work. So my biggest bone of contention is, let's have a pump on every truck we got. May not use it, but it's there if we need it, that's what we have to have.
Absolutely, and that's part of this 10-year cycle on replacement of belt, 9, 10 to 12 years, is that once a pump gets 12 plus years old, you start becoming more of a maintenance issue. So when it runs every day, and anytime these trucks sit outside and it's below 40 degrees, that pump's circulating water, it's running. So as you start getting more and more hours on those pumps, you start having more and more maintenance problems. So the goal is to take that engine 2, and this comes into service, engine 2 will become reserve. So that it will be there, it will be fully functional, and if, God forbid, the primary engine goes out for maintenance, we still have a fire truck that's capable. The tower also has a pump on it, which is great. It only has 300 gallons of water because of all of the weight of the ladder truck. They just can't put a lot of water on it, and it won't fit down most people's driveways. So your house will be fine, we can make it from the road. But some of the longer driveways, the ladder truck may not make it out there that great.
I know, we have to worry about the chairman and long driveway.
Would you speak to the guarantees and warranties as well?
Absolutely, that was one of the other big things. If you look at the list I gave you, there was the warranty list. The KME has some of the best warranties and some of the longest warranties. They're the only one that doesn't have a prorated paint warranty. So when I wrote in their prorated paint warranty, you get 5 years on the clear coat, you get, the next 3 years on the base coat, and they start working down. KME is a paint warranty. Hey, if you have a problem with paint for 10 years, we're gonna fix it.
Okay, that's a good point.
The upholstery warranty, they're the only one that has an upholstery warranty, which on the surface wouldn't seem like a big deal, but when you're sliding in and out of a fire truck in heavy fire gear, an upholstery warranty is a big deal, because the seams let go. I can't tell you how many fire trucks I've driven that have duct tape on the front seat. Nobody wants that.
Well, with all your new gym equipment, I don't expect firemen to be sliding out, I expect them to be jumping.
Jumping, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good point.
Absolutely.
The other question I have too is we had one vehicle, one apparatus, is the right word. They had a little hydraulic situation with the lines underneath the vehicle. Are we gonna have a little same situation with this new one? or-
No, and that was another thing that I didn't put in your cut sheet. So the KME is the only one that has fully braided lines and fully reinforced lines.
That's what I want to
They're
hear.
brake, they're air, they're hydraulic.
Perfect.
They're
We should
also,
have a good 10 years out of it.
absolutely, they're the only one that put a skid plate underneath it. And I said, hey, listen, we're not hitting rocks, I don't need skid plate. He goes, no. The skid plate, as much as it's for hitting snowbanks, it keeps corrosion out from all the wiring, out from all the hoses. Nobody else even offered a skid plate. I don't build trucks, I don't know that. He goes, listen, you don't need it for driving off road, you need it to keep road grime and salt off of the wire.
Right.
So that was another
That
thing
was a big
that
problem we
they
had.
offered.
Yeah.
I will tell you, KME built us a truck with all of the things that make sense. Their sales rep is a full-time lieutenant down in Danvers, Mass. They run KMEs, very, very tough on fire trucks. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Danvers, they're a pretty good-sized city, they're very busy.
They're busy.
And so he essentially built us a truck that he would build for Danvers, because if he builds a crappy truck for Danvers, everybody on the department is giving him a hard time. So I'm okay with that.
I think it's important to note, you don't go shopping for a fire truck the way you go shopping for a Subaru. You put together your specs, what you want, and they literally build the truck
Around.
for you, around, like, you want this and that, and
That
this
makes
tall
sense.
and that tall. So when you get your truck, you get all your needs met.
We didn't go for the Cadillac engine, we.
No.
No.
For the durability, I hope.
In that one little,
If it was the Cadillac, it would have been 1.2.
So in that little,
Or half of that.
single sheet that I gave you today, my opinion, when it comes to fire trucks, there are two companies out there that are categorized, Pierce and Seagraves.
Yeah.
Seagraves is the truck that we're replacing. They were $725,000 to build us the same truck that's sitting in that bay. Very minimal advancement, no more storage space. And their suggestion, as I wrote that they had some suggestions I didn't agree with to cut costs, was for us to letter our truck. No, we're not lettering our fire truck. We're not putting lights on our own fire truck. Pierce, very similar, great fire truck company, very reputable. Nashua runs Pierce fire trucks, Salem runs Pierce fire trucks. To build a truck, E1s, to build a truck equivalent to that KME, $725,000. Because it says Pierce on it. In fact, you actually pay extra for this oval and letters in it.
You said when you get the new truck, you'll keep the old truck?
Negative.
I thought you said that the.
Engine two.
is backup.
Engine 2 will become reserve.
Okay.
So the Spartan that was bought as a demo in 2013.
So we liquidate this truck, how are we gonna go about that?
So I reached out, again, in the process, to all three vendors to see who would give us what for the trucks.
Okay.
No one wants it.
Okay.
So whether it becomes a sealed bid, there are some avenues that we can reach out to the used fire truck market, but no one will give us anything in trading for it. None of the nationwide used fire truck dealers want it because of its age. So Engine 5 will become an asset of the Board of Selectmen, and we'll gladly help facilitate that, but there is no value for trading.
What
on
year
it,
is
which,
that?
96. So unfortunately, I'm sure it's worth something to a collector,
Somebody, something.
but no municipality wants it, and the used fire truck business is generally trying to sell to municipalities.
No, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
We used to buy it. We used to buy the used trucks. Please.
now, this figure you gave us of 668,896,
Yes, sir.
now, when we bought the ladder truck, we put $75,000 more on that truck. I don't wanna get down that road too far. What I wanna say to you is, are we gonna be looking for more hidden expenses here along the road?
No, and that was my goal in looking at these specs,
Thank you.
is to make sure we weren't gonna, no, absolutely, I'd love to speak to it, because that was my concern.
Good.
I know this is kind of the first major purchase that I've been involved in, but I'm a person that if I have to come back and ask for more money, I'm stubborn enough, I'm not gonna ask, and we'll figure out how to work with it.
Thank you for that, I appreciate that, you know what my concerns are, and that's.
Absolutely.
You know,
My goal was to
best
come
you can.
once, sign a contract, and move forward,
Okay.
and not have to look for more.
The survey that was done last year by the independent that came back last summer.
Yep.
Was 60 some odd, I say,
Yeah.
67 pages.
Did you use that as a guide? Did that help you?
Absolutely.
Go through this and,
It helped us significantly in justifying what we were looking for. So we had started the process prior to the survey coming back.
Right.
So as the survey came back, we took the survey results as to what they said we should be doing, and what we had done, and put those two together to make sure they aligned, and then anything that didn't, we built off of that. So as you read the sheet, we started, about October, everybody came back with their first fire truck. And we re-met with everyone October, November, and said, all right, hey, we don't want this, we don't need that, we need to change this is unneeded, we need to head down this road. A couple of things that came out of that KME was able to deliver on, the other two couldn't fit it in a price. Depending upon our response, we may have one person driving the fire truck by himself. So anytime we back up, take tight corners, things like that, there's always a hazard of not being able to see the blind spots. So the KME actually has a 360-degree camera similar to what's on the new Chevy, so that there's a screen in the dash that the driver can see around the truck. There are still small blind spots, it's not perfect, but it is significantly safer than we've ever been, with one person in a fire truck. For A, damage to the vehicle, B, potential injury to pedestrians not being able to see them. Unfortunately, a fire truck's large and mirrors only go so far. So that was one thing. The two other vendors will absolutely do that for us. It's between $3,000 and $5,000 extra, which I'm not comfortable asking for if someone will deliver that to us within the price point.
Well, then I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Chairman, that 67-page report we did, we had a little discussion about how much money it was gonna cost us to do it, but I think it was well investment for us to help you as well, to help the town to move forward.
Absolutely.
So we can get something on a basis where everybody knows where we are, what we're doing. And I said to you when I supported the warrant article for the $200,000 was because I base it on the report that we had paid for.
Yep,
And I thought it was an excellent report, so I'm glad to hear you've done, I knew you did some stuff before that, and Madam said that earlier, which I knew she did, but I appreciate you guys following some sentiment of that.
Absolutely. I mean, as we spoke over that report to begin with, that was to help guide us in a direction. And I think Eleanor and I, that,
Yeah, you
the
made a good team.
The adjustment plan was very good.
That layout you gave us with equipment, very well done, very well done.
Yep.
So thank you for that, I appreciate it.
Now, what's, if we're not giving approval of this tonight, right? It's gonna go through, review by our attorney, go through the purchase procedure, everything, I mean, we moving forward?
Right, just one question, you know, I think to myself, $600,000,
Right.
over $500,000.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you've worked really hard on this project. Is it possible that the selectmen could see the specs? You mentioned that there's 2 pages of.
I didn't actually, they're scribbled in a notebook, I didn't actually bring them with me. There's significantly more information about the specs in all of these binders, and I'll gladly leave all of them.
Would that be all right?
Absolutely. I'll pull out the contract so that you have that, it doesn't get lost in the books, but absolutely, I brought these for the selectmen to look at. This one's the KME, E1 and Pierce, they're all here. So they're absolutely for you gentlemen to take a look at, to see the process we went through, to see what's in a truck and what's not. You'll find very similar motors, very similar transmissions, because we kind of set a horsepower rating we were looking for, because I don't need a 600 horsepower fire truck driving through the streets of New England. You know, so you'll see some very similarities, you'll see some differences in them, but there's a lot of information. No. This is, they put away $200,000 in the capital, so
Exactly.
after next year's capital, we'll own the truck outright from the get-go.
There you go.
Well, Chief, I appreciate
But
the
this, what I'm
research.
saying is there's not ongoing payments.
Correct.
Right.
Chief, I appreciate the research that you did, and I really like the summarization of the 3 top contenders, and I like your recommendation. That goes a long way with me, is you're the one who's gonna be using it, you're the one who has to work the equipment, so I appreciate that, thank you.
I would also like to mention with the new truck and guarantees and warranties, we've been plagued with used equipment, you know, repairs, major repairs, trucks out of service. With a new truck, that is something that we don't anticipate spending. So that's an
Someone knock on wood,
offset.
please.
Yeah,
Someone please knock on wood. So unfortunately, as much as I'm gonna tell you this is a great manufacturer, we all know that there are lemons every day, so I don't wanna go down the road of, we'll have no maintenance issues and then
okay,
we have
no,
a
but
problem
I'm
because of
saying,
that.
we're not anticipating, every year it seems like, you know, that's a big line item for us.
Correct.
We're anticipating giving that a break, buying the truck, giving that a break, you know, and, very happy.
For clarification of,
I'm sorry, Michael.
clarification for our new selectmen, you're gonna need some down payment money.
Not necessarily.
Okay, because that was my question. I knew that it was told to us earlier in another meeting that we need to order the truck today to get it next year, that type of thing. And I was wondering
Correct.
where we are on that situation and what we have to do there.
So, all of these vendors will hold the price until April 15th.
Okay.
At April 15th, all of these prices will increase between 3 and 5%, so $30,000+.
Time is of the essence.
Timing is fairly, I don't want anyone to feel rushed to spending more than $500,000, but
But that
timing
gives
is,
us a month. A
timing
month is a good amount of time,
Yeah.
which is good. It isn't like a week.
right, is of the essence.
So we don't have to act on anything tonight until this is
No.
all reviewed.
Correct.
Right?
No.
Correct.
So we have to run it through legal and a couple other things.
Absolutely, absolutely. The one other thing with down payment, so they will build a truck with a signed contract.
Okay.
That is $668,000, whatever the change was. They do offer prepayment discounts, so if we put half the money down on the truck, they'll take a little bit less than 1.5% off of the total price of the truck.
That's what I was gonna ask you. if there
I
was some
don't
percent.
know, I know Martha was gonna reach out and find out what the interest is in the capital account as we make more money or if we lose money on it.
0.25%.
Sure.
So theoretically, if we have half of the money, put it down, we're saving money in the long run. So that contract isn't easy. I told them that I wanted to talk with you folks before I had to write it up.
Work it all out, we'll forget the sheet for us to take action on
Yep.
before April 15th. Is that?
Great. I
Yeah.
just have one further question. Have you found other towns or cities that don't use the RFP system for purchase of a fire
So
truck?
I found some larger ones that do, some smaller ones don't. So I reached out to Rochester. Rochester recently purchased an aerial, and they went down the RFP route. And I asked, why did you go down an RFP? And their answer was because we knew what truck we wanted before we started. Oh. So what happens with an RFP is, and this is the fire service finding loopholes and everything, is if you know you want a certain truck, well, then you write an RFP for that truck. Like, hey, we, 2/3 up the rear of the cab, it needs to slant at 30 degrees and it needs to. So the RFP process potentially narrows us if we write something wrong for vendors because they don't deliver that. So they're excluded and they don't bid. So that was one of the conversations I had that started this, is like, all right, we'll do an RFP. And it was kind of very quickly shut down. We may not want to, because I don't know everything about fire trucks, nor do I ever intend to. And I would rather open this up to any reputable manufacturer that has reputable service in the area than potentially limit someone out that may not. That was kind of why we started down this road. I don't disagree with the RFP process on paper. I was just a little concerned that if we wrote the wrong thing in for a pump manufacturer or a motor manufacturer, people wouldn't bid on it. And then are we really getting the best bang for our buck because we said it has to have a waterless pump? Well, the E1 doesn't have a waterless pump, it has a Garley pump. At the end of the day, is that gonna make a big difference? Well, it means I wouldn't have had E1 for a price, and then would that have been an option? So that was kind of why we shaded away from that. And again, the service side of it, the RFP doesn't address service, which I was more concerned with for us. It seems
We've had
bigger.
bad experience with service in the past, believe me, I know where you're coming from.
Absolutely, and as you look at the quick punch list of items that we put on there, most of those are because of issues we had. The Freightliner, the frame rotted out. Well, guess what? You have to make a galvanized frame. We're not buying a fire truck without a galvanized frame because I need 25 years.
Thank you.
So that was part of it. So that's kind of why we went away from that RFP process. Just trying to be as open and honest and open the door to as many people as we could that wanted to bid it.
Good.
Question,
Any other
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I don't want to delay this.
Oh,
When we get the actual purchase and sale, is it the fire engineers and the selectmen signing combining to purchase this? Is this how this works?
I would bow to what the attorney said in the
Okay,
contract.
I will say that the current contract that's in the book, I had written out to the Board of Selectmen in the town of New England.
It's not that they, I don't want to step on your toes here, but I want to make sure that everybody's on the same path here.
Yep.
So we all have the same problems together.
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you.
I would interject that I would say it would be selectmen, because fire engineers do not sign to take money out of capital accounts.
Thank you.
So that
That's
would
what I
make all
was-
the
that's
sense
what I
in the
was
world.
concerned about,
That's
right.
why,
Absolutely.
I mean,
But it's just-
obviously,
Where's the money at?
we're telling you what would work, but in terms of a financial transaction, that would seem to make sense.
Well, we just didn't want to have any problems down
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In speaking for the fire engineers, do you back the chief's choice and this is the truck
Yes,
you want?
in fact, we had more than one discussion over it.
Excellent.
And as the interviews were going along, and the data was coming back on the trucks, there were trucks that were eliminated because they were exorbitantly expensive. And what we wanted was, the value for the dollar for our town, what we need to complement what we have in the apparatus bay now. And that's how this came back. And one of the big things, I will tell you that Mr. Planchester and Mr. Fabrizio were concerned about, as was I, was the service. The service.
Oh, the service,
Yes,
absolutely.
and when you
know,
have
Record we have that, I know.
kind of service, we felt that was really important. Very
But you're all on board with this?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
They actually was voted 3 to none,
Yes.
unanimously support this.
I figured you had a record on it, I just,
Yeah.
that's
Yes,
fine.
we
Yep,
did.
absolutely.
Okay, we'll proceed from here. Thank you very much. Anything
Thank
else?
you for your presentation.
No, that's.
Thank you very much.
Any questions, feel free to reach out, I'd gladly speak about
And
it.
Eleanor and
I
everything.
can't sleep, I'll take one of those and read it.
I
No
have,
sleep.
Peggy, hold on a minute.
I'll be back
Could
at the
you
station
line up
after.
here? Okay, well, hold on just a minute before we proceed, Peggy. just finishing up with the other items.
No problem, no
That's
problem.
the cost. Okay, so that's that. And then those would be the full specs.
Sorry about that, thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
We have,
You're welcome.
we have Peggy Lamson on the phone, and she's gonna give us an update development on what's going on in the Peace Development Authority. I'll put my phone on a soft speaker, so I hope everybody can hear it.
Oh, I hope you can hear me.
Peggy, we don't even, Peggy, you don't even need a phone, we can hear you.
Well, that's all I would like to say is to thank Mr. Chairman, the Board of Selectmen, Martha, and Bob Ronigan. Can you hear me?
I can,
I welcome you aboard, and I congratulate you.
thank you.
You're welcome, you're welcome. Well, thank you. I zoomed out for what I did today, but what I want to I just wanted to bring this forward to the board, as Ted knows, you being the new board member, and Mike knows, the Millionaire Air doing business as the, Peace Aviation Partners, wants to become our second fixed base operator. You being, as the guard, understand the place, they supply fuel to Hero Place, you know what I'm talking about. Our present FBO is Port City Air, that has done one outstanding job, as I think our chairman can relate to you. And Millionaire Air, when they came to us, Peace Aviation Partners, they came in and they had a letter of intent. Well, we had not really had any opportunity as a board, as a full board, to really understand what they do, who they are, et cetera, et cetera. It was a long thing. They need to go to the airport committee, all of these, everything. There's a big procedure that has to be done. Well, I tabled the motion. I thought it was too soon with their letter of intent. They were telling us what we should do. Well, they're coming. We're going to tell them. So, and they were very nice to work with. They were just fine. And they did not come. We did not have a meeting in November, which we had the one where I tabled. Then we did not have one in December. And then in January, I'm on the airport committee, and we assessed to see if they had met, and they were satisfying the minimum standards as FAA. FAA holds the ruling stick, correct? I mean, Ted knows what I put everybody through with this. And they met it, and we moved to forward this to the full board. So now we have spent many hours on this project in February. I can bring you reams. They cut many trees down, okay, to get all this paper that's given to us. Many, many trees went down. And they're cutting in now that, about Steve Audio will make the motion to recommend to the PDA to approve the application that authorizes, Peace Aviation Partners to become an FBO. You understand what I'm saying? Ask me any questions.
Keep going, Peggy.
Okay, so then there's the site plan, there's the subdivision, all these things that have to go through. Temporary now, they're gonna use a temporary building for their hangar, and then we're to execute a lease agreement for the property that they're wishing to have on Exeter Street. And you know where that is?
No.
That's where the big hangar is for Pan Am was, where the P and their big planes coming in when you go to the airport there. They work down, you know where that is. And
Has
that's
that
where
been
they
cleared,
like
Peggy?
to
Has that
have their big tank, their big hangar, et cetera. And then this is subject, of course, to a separate PDA approval and terms, for them. And then they also, this is what they do. Then they have to also go to the technical review committee. Nothing to do with the town of Newington. It's Portsmouth relative to sewer, water, et cetera. And then we, the Peace Development Authority, are the planning board. So this is the time that we can really go tooth and nail on many questions that we have. And the environment is one of the big questions, because presently now, Port City Air is, at the FBO, they have their tank
do.
Okay, so you know what that is, all right, you know, and of course you know what that is, Ted. And that is very, you know, sensitive area there with the sand and gravel. And you know what happened with so much seepage that went on, what has done to the town of Newington, city of Portsmouth,
Right.
PFOAs, PFSs, which went over into the Haven well and the wells, et cetera. So this is the time that I should really go and ask many questions on the tank farm. I'm very concerned and wanting to know about what, do they have anything in place on their tertiary system for preventing spills. They call it double wall, and they have a lot of high tech with computers, et cetera, where they buzz to a person who's on duty. And, you know, I have to let you know, they upgraded everything, Port City Air, and they went through the same thing that we're going to be asking, Pease Aviation Partners. I'm concerned if we can have two tank farms in that very sensitive environmental part at Pease. Again, DES plays a role right there, as you all know. So tomorrow on Thursday, and I did give a pointer, our meeting is posted right on the board. I'm sure you saw it right outside.
And we got all, we got all the information you dropped off. We got all that, the packet for the meeting, Peggy, yeah, thank you.
Okay, you got all, okay, that's fine, and it's posted over there and on the board, like we always do, you know, with everything, name, place, et cetera, on there. And our meeting starts on Thursday. This doesn't happen all the time, but this time we are having an 8 o'clock meeting with consultation with council.
Okay,
And that's at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, pronto, we go into our full board meeting to act on this where we're at now. So this is what I wanted to bring up, so you would know. I wanted you to be up to speed like, you know, Ted and Mike know about this.
Peggy, let me ask you a question. On the Pan Am building, that hasn't been used for a while, or wasn't used for a
No,
while,
it hasn't. I mean,
because it was contaminated. There was
between the asbestos, et cetera, that
Right.
they're cleaning up.
Has that been cleared for use?
Not at present.
Okay, so that could be a hold up on this whole thing, right?
That's an issue.
I don't know, because you see, they're not gonna have the Pan Am building. They're gonna build behind on Exeter Street. Look at the map, look at the plan that it's at the town hall. If it's not there, I'll have a plan there for you. 'Cause they would
Okay,
want
so they're not
it there.
using, I thought you had said that they're gonna use the Pan Am building, so they're not
No,
using.
they're not gonna use the Pan Am building.
Okay, so
No,
they're building-
The Pan Am building is in front where their tank farm is going to be.
Okay, all right,
It's not there. They're not gonna be using that. No.
Okay.
That's gonna be, the building that they're going to use is gonna be down further towards temporary. Then they're going to build the building, this is going to be at 53 Exeter Street. And then they have to bring a road in to bring their fuel and for vehicles to go in to where they have their tank farm.
okay,
What I should do is that's before, you know, before they come for that, to show and make sure that it's on the wall there, that you all can see that. And there are wetlands there, and that disturbs me very much. That's where the helicopters, do you remember the helicopters?
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yep,
And Mike, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's where they want to be, and they want to put, and I was very much against filling in wetlands
right, right.
in that spot.
That's it, that's the Newington, that's the Newington end of the runway that
Right.
we're talking about, for people to be more
It's
familiar with.
not over there, this section here, where it is, that I'm talking with their building, is right there behind where the Pan Am. It's not by the North Apron,
Okay,
okay?
Yep.
No, it's not there. No,
Okay.
no, it's right, you know where the Pan Am building is?
Yep.
Then behind that, then you can see where they will put their tank farm, and then next to their tank farm is Port City Air tank farm,
Right.
which was the United States Air Force,
okay, all right.
okay?
Yep.
Do you have any questions?
Let me ask you, Mike?
Hope that.
No questions.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, Peggy, appreciate it. And
Oh,
keep,
yeah, and if any of you ever wanna come dancing over there, we'll be very happy to have you, as you know, Paul Reed is
Right.
our director
Okay, thank you, keep us brief, Peggy. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you, Peggy.
Okay, that takes care of what's that, let's see. We're back to the agenda part.
Facility use?
Yes, that's the next is facility use. There's, the rec department was it March 28th at East Egg Hunt. Seacoast Lacrosse, which is Peter Latcher, Chris Russo, want the old town hall field and the lower school field mid-March to mid-May for practice. And Robert Patno wants a wedding at Fox Point on July 17th. You want to do them separately or all at once?
No, let's do them all at once.
Okay, make a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It passes.
The only thing I'd add is, Patno gives a number, and I don't know if that's based on the state standards with COVID, but if the state standards move up, will we let her go by the current standards, or is this the firm number?
Current standards as they sit now, if the government changes or something, they have to agree with it, that's how it works. That's the way we've been doing it, right, Mr. Chairman?
Ellen is the one who handles that.
We have everybody sign a safer at home where they promise to 6 feet apart, no more than 6 people at a table, the tables are 6 feet apart. Luckily, they're at Fox Point, so they can easily accommodate
yeah, right.
that there.
Okay,
Yeah, and when they change, we'll change too, but we go by the governor's standards.
good.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
You're good.
Okay, we'll go down to volunteer positions advertisement. That's a notice we're putting out about all the commission board openings and everything that we,
Board of Adjustment,
Yeah,
Conservation,
the-
Economic,
the
Historic.
board, yeah, the committees that, and that we have openings, and some of them are required by the selectmen. We'd like to get that out, and then we'll get it back, and then we'll sit down and evaluate it, and see who's interested in appointing the board. Try to have all of the boards in, by April 1st, or in that ballpark, first week of April.
Can I ask, I know when the budget committee met, Mr. Lamson said, if it doesn't pass, then this safety committee goes up in smoke, is that?
That's right. Yeah, that,
So should we be asking for that? And the second is the town forest use committee. I'm of the belief that we don't need another committee. We have the historic, we have the recreation, we have, conservation. I think those committees could render an opinion to us on the particular issue that we want answered.
well, thank you very much. That's what we were trying to do, is a couple of members from the conservation, from the historic district, from the planning board, and people who use it. And use it, and just put that committee, not a big committee, but a
Not a
committee,
new committee, but
a working committee.
combination of the others.
Right, yes.
Okay.
That way everybody has a chance to get involved with it,
No.
if they're interested in what they wanna do.
Yep.
That was our intention in the beginning, that's what we thought about, but if you're not comfortable with it, we can discuss it if you want.
I think, you know, we're not gonna try to invent the wheel again.
Yeah,
That's basically,
Yeah.
We can refine that down if we want.
Great.
Some member of the HDC probably on it. The library is up there, have something from there.
Yeah.
Have, some conservation, yeah.
yep.
Planning board,
Recreation.
recreation,
Police chief,
yeah. It's,
does the fire department care about it?
We'll be
Unless
there
we have a
before,
forest
man.
fire, right?
There's a fire up there, they'll be there, but
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Recreation, historic,
planning,
planning,
Economic.
Conservation.
conservation.
conservation,
Library, police chief.
yeah.
Just as long as we encompass all of those.
Right, and
we
then,
can have a rep.
and he uses,
Yeah.
one or two users.
Yeah.
And when everybody has a chance to say what they wanna say and bring it forward to us to make the final determination.
To make sure I get the title right, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're talking about the town forest?
Yes,
One of the things that came up in that whole technical review session at the Keys Restoration Advisory Board is there's a lot of bicycle trails in there that are already part of a regional map for access with walking, jogging, snowmobiling, or whatever the use is. But it's right next to one of the most contaminated sites at Keys.
Right
And
next
some of
site,
the dirt had like 3 million parts per trillion of this PFAS. And the water's some of the most contaminated around.
Right.
So,
That's why we wanted the committee, because people should be aware of that too, so they
yeah,
can deal
and
with it.
it's not that people won't be able to use it, but there's gonna have to be some common sense about
Right.
where you might not wanna go, how you address the
Well, that's why
water.
the committee together, review it, look
Yeah.
at it, and put it if there's a do not go sign or whatever we need without
Yeah.
killing the woods and
Yeah.
signs.
To keep people safe.
Yeah.
The other part that you just mentioned, if I could, I would say the safety committee needs to continue. The roads are not safe for a lot of walking or bicycle, people out there. And so just because this particular project failed, doesn't mean that the safety committee should be disbanded.
We do have a highway safety committee, it's the fire chief, the police chief, and the road engineer.
And I'd like to see if we could, a lot of the people that want to use it, the people that have issues, how they
I think
might.
if anybody has an issue, they could contact one of those three gentlemen, ask them to convene their safety committee and bring it through that committee.
Well, that's just my input. I think you need a separate committee, but you've got a lot of people in town that were very disappointed about the vote. I think when you have that invested group of people, you have to keep working with them. To disband the committee, I think sends the wrong signal to the people.
50% of the town will for it, 50% were against it, so it's a political point, it might be just leave the committee that's there in place for the time being.
Let them talk, let them discuss what their alternative approaches might be.
But all right. Anything else we want to put on that? Okay, move on to, new business. Little Bay water line temporary, it's been reviewed by the Conservation Commission, the town attorney, approved by the selectmen, and all we need is to authorize the chairman to sign the paperwork, is that right?
Exactly.
You need a motion for that?
Yes.
Please.
So moved.
Second. Discussion, all those in favor?
All right.
Adams Farm, sidewalk.
The dates, potential dates for you to walk the Adams Homestead are March 23, 24, 25, and 26. From 8 to 5 or so.
This is for the selectmen, or is it
This-
the general public, or who's this for?
This is for the select,
Okay.
because, for the
I
select.
know the planning board's already looked at it,
Right.
some people have looked at it, I have not been there, but I don't think we do that.
Too far from your house.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Would you like to do this in conjunction with your non-public? Next week, I could work those both.
Would you
on
do
the
that?
same-
That'd be good.
Thank you,
Okay,
that's a good, that's good recommendation,
I'll
okay.
get back to you with that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh,
Green Depot?
Yeah, we're gonna wait on train people, we'll get a couple more things, and then we can concentrate on that, if you don't mind. Pease Development Authority joint rep, as everybody knows, not everybody, but Newington and Greenland are gonna split the state rep, the new law passed, and it's gonna be in April when the new person has to be. Martha and I have sat down with the town of Greenland, the city manager, the town manager, and the chairman of the board, Steve Smith, and gone over, we've got an application to put out. They're gonna put it out to their people, we're gonna put it out to ours, get the information back, if anybody wants to serve. Then we'll sit down and go over it and pick somebody from either one of the two committees. At the present time, we split Peter Lockwood is our representative, and he represents Portsmouth and Newington. They did away with that position. Our position on the PDA is represented by a town resident, that's Peggy Lamson, who's done it since the beginning of time, since I think the PDA was established in the early nineties. So that's why we got a report tonight. But, this isn't new. We've talked with them, we've talked with Dennis Malloy, the state rep, we've talked to several people on it, find out a good person, and we'll come back. As soon as we get the application out, we'll screen it, and we'll come back, and the selectmen will sit down and work, and then we'll work with the town of Greenland and their selectmen on picking the representative. That it, Martha?
Yes, is Peter leaving or is Peter staying?
Peter is leaving.
He is.
They've done away with his
Okay.
position, and I think Peter is, I would like to, personally, I'd like to see him stay. I think he's done one great job, and he wrote the book, the law book on land and the laws of the state, and everybody in the state of New Hampshire, every court uses it.
Yeah.
It's a great loss, I think, to us in Newington and to the PBA, but the state law changed that. Zoning Board of Adjustment, temporary employees board appointments. There's some zoning coming up where some people are abutters who are on that and who are not, trying to find it, I don't get it.
Right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Emailed it.
There's two or three members of the board that can't sit because of their abutters to it. So, discussion with Matt Morton, he would like us to consider two people to fill in for that. This is one meeting, this one case, and it's like Dennis Hebert, who sat on the board before, and Bob Burns, who's a resident who lives on Nimble Hill Road, who has been asked and will volunteer to serve on the committee. So I'd like to ask that we appoint them temporarily for this one meeting.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Second, discussion?
It's my nephew who is going before the Board of Adjustment meeting.
Yes,
And we would ask that Dennis Hebert not be one of the people that's appointed.
this is the recommendation from the chairman of the board of, so
So
we're
you're
gonna go
putting the
along
head
with it
of
now
the
unless he has
planning
any
board?
problems. We will convey that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I think that cares of everything except the train depot, which Lou, I believe, is here for. And,
Is the train left the station, Lou? That's the question.
there's a tab in here.
You gotta speak, you have to speak a little louder, because it's hard to hear.
I sent a memo of what was going on at the most recent meeting,
Yeah.
Yes,
and
we all have it right here.
Good.
Yeah.
The tide seems to be shifting more in Newington's favor. A year ago, they were saying basically they were going to sell it because they had to sell it. The deed said that's something they had to do. Now they're saying that they fully intend to transfer it to the town of Newington. And the only way that wouldn't happen is if Newington refuses whatever the agreement is. Now that alone is a big change from where we've been. So if you think back 40 years ago with getting Fox Point, there was several years of effort that went into talking with Marjorie Mott about would the town be able to buy Fox Point. And the depot property right now is assessed at about $4 million. So to have a $4 million property transferred to the town, basically at no cost to buy the property, is a tremendous positive. Not everything's positive. That aspect of it is very positive. The only reason we're getting that offer is because of the old railroad depot. The only reason we're in the position we're in today to ask for free property is because of the historic mitigation on the General Sullivan Bridge. So historic building and transfer of the property are absolutely linked. And there's no way to say, yes, we want the property, but tear down the building. So everything right now is centered around, if the building has to be preserved, which being on the Historic District Commission, I believe it should be preserved. A lot of people might say they don't like old, historic buildings, tear it down. But you're not going to get the property if you say, we're not going to want to preserve this building. So the most recent discussion, and it was about a 2-hour meeting with the folks from DOT and the Division of Historic Resources, is the state has allowed the building to deteriorate considerably. The roof's not in bad condition, keeps the water out. The foundation is in pretty good condition because it was fixed about, 30 years ago. The outside of the building is not good. The cladding, there's plywood over the windows. The trim has rotten areas where the squirrels or whoever comes into the building. So the state, their new stance, Newington has said you've got to fix up the whole building before you give it to us. The current discussion is the state will fix up some of the land, the outside that's all overgrown and has never been maintained, and will put X dollars into fixing the outside of the building envelope. And then whatever the reuse of the building would be, Newington would have to be responsible for the paying for how the building would get reused. The Division of Historic Resources in Concord is very happy with having the property transferred to Newington. There would be a preservation easement put on it that says, okay, you can't just willy-nilly sell this or demolish it or whatever you're supposed to.
Some of the Strawberry Bank, absolutely.
Very similar to Strawberry Bank.
Yeah, you see that.
But they're willing to let us work with them to whatever the plan is on how does the building intend to be reused. Newington will be able to, go back and forth with them so that if they, for instance, said, we want to reuse the building for a McMansion or whatever, Newington would be able to say yes or no. We'd be able to talk about what kind of public access we would want to the building and the property. The same thing for the reuse plan, the preservation plan, and the rehabilitation plan. So the town will have full input back and forth about how those plans get created. But then once they're created, whatever aspect of it that Newington is responsible for, we would, over a period of years, need to do whatever that is. It's not clear yet how much the state is going to try to renege on the outside of the building. They might say the foundation is good, the roof is good, we just mothballed the building, that's all we're going to do. So there's still a lot of fighting, and it's not fun.
No, you've done a
It
great
is
job.
fighting.
You've done a great job representing the
Absolutely.
historical part and doing it. I would recommend that we get a meeting with this Jennifer Resnick from the DOT ASAP and see where we stand and what they're gonna do and how much are they gonna
I
give.
agree.
And then, rather than drag this out forever and ever like some of these things do, I'd like to get something within the next month set up with her and then take it from there and see what the hell the state is gonna do.
Right.
And so a couple of and I think that's definitely the next step. And a couple of cautions is, as you're talking to her,
You'll be with us.
well, no, in the past, they've had a selectman letter that came out 30 years ago, where the town was asking to get that property. Whoever those selectmen were sent a letter that discouraged everybody at the state preservation office, discouraged the DOT people. They put it right in the documentation on the railroad building. And when I asked them about it all had to do is, do they believe the town when the town says that they will keep this building in repair? And so I caution you, you can't play what-if games about, well, what if we got rid of it?
Right.
You've got to be careful about.
Well, we can play a game with them because they were supposed to keep it up, keep the
Maintain it.
land up and maintain the property. So, you know, we can sit down and we can negotiate.
Tell them that, and the
he's
only
got it.
other caution I'd say is, when you speak of reuse, and I said to them, what are the critical parts of that they want to see? If you have a reuse that relates to, like, leasing the building out to some private party that would fix it up and then have a 20-year lease to use it, that's not going to help, because the biggest thing that Newington has going for it right now is we're saying we want to preserve 400 years of public access to that waterfront, to that property, to people be able to go like Fox Point, where you can go for recreational things or whatever. But if we say a McMansion is bad, like you sell it to the highest bidder and they put a big house there,
Right.
we're saying that's bad. But if we turn around and say we're going to lease it out to somebody and people can't use it, that's not what they want to hear.
Well, my concern would be, we don't have any estimates on what it would cost to bring that building up to current code and standards. And we don't have any plan for what we could use that building for. Has the state ever considered, for full public access, what about a park like what's on the Hilton Park site?
And absolutely, you're thinking exactly how this has played out. We presented to them a year ago the concept of a Bloody Point Park and said, you've maintained Hilton Park, you've done nothing on this side of the river. We've said to them over and over again, the selectmen will not commit to anything unless they know what the dollar amount is, and that it's totally unacceptable for a document to have X amount will be given to the town. I think the selectmen had sent a letter that had requested $1 million or something.
Yeah, we
with
put a good, I forget what, it was a
Good
big
chunk of
number,
money,
right?
yeah.
Now, I don't think you're gonna get $1 million, but I said to them last week, if they say it's $100,000, they can't do that either, because that won't even do anything to bring the building up to any kind of repair. So, the big fight on that dollar amount is more, they don't wanna do the work, they wanna write a check to the town, and the town has to do the work. We would be able to work through the reuse, what kind of reuse scenarios would be in one of these documents. And the biggest problem, and it's a fight, they want to finalize some of this paperwork so they can go to their next step. And I'm saying to them, you can't finalize part of the paperwork without finalizing the second memorandum of understanding with Newington that clearly outlines what has to be done. And they might have to guess at some of those dollar amounts. Like if they have to fix the outside of the building, then you need the list. Does that include the roof, the windows, the door, the cladding? the sills, you know, insect damage.
Exactly what they're gonna do is
rodent,
what they need to do, exactly.
And what we're gonna do is sit with them and give a list from them, then we can
Yeah.
go back and get our cost estimates, and then if it's worth, then we pursue it further.
Right.
That's what we gotta do it quickly, but in a step fashion that protects we, you know, and I've said this before, I think it's a great idea to preserve the building as the railroad station and like that. But if we're just gonna get another vacant building, we get so many vacant buildings in town now, and we don't need another one, another piece of land that we can't take care of. We gotta make sure that we got a plan in place before
Right.
we do it. You and I have discussed this at length.
I think the bottom line for your board, for every voter in Newington, has to be, is this a good deal?
Right.
Now,
It has to be, because it showed the other day, with the safety land is the thing. One of the big concerns was, this was gonna cost money, and the people didn't want to spend extra money. That was a big concern. And I think if we go see what this, the purchase is, and it's gonna cost the town money, I think it's a,
And not just initial cost, ongoing cost,
Absolutely.
ongoing maintenance, ongoing tax
That's what it is.
impact.
Yeah.
Sure, certainly.
I think that's why the reuse plans, the more people think about potential reuse plans, the better off we are. Again, my caution is you have to err on the side of public reuse. Because if you err on the side of private reuse,
Right.
they can sell it to anybody they want or that ever wants it. And I guess the last thing I'd say, it's once in a generation that you're in a position to get a place like Fox Point or to get the town forest returned to the town of Newington. And once that moment passes, it's gone. You don't just keep
Right.
coming back. And so,
That has historic value too, because it's Bloody Point, there was a reason to call Bloody Point.
and the taxpayer is gonna have to figure out getting a $4 million waterfront part of town, one of the most historic parts of town. Do they want to write grants, LCHIP grants to help renovate the building? Do you want another caretaker situation like you have at Fox Point, where somebody lives there and has to do the mowing and take out the garbage and make people feel safe when they go there? But that's more than, all I can do is bring us to the point to make those
and
decisions.
you brought us up to that point that we've gotta sit down and
Yeah.
schedule a meeting with the state.
It's an excellent
And
job.
thank you for that, and you'll be part of the committee that sits down with the state, what we do is we'll know what's going on, and the efforts that you put in it.
Well, I give it less than 50-50 right now, but we're moving in the right
We're
direction.
getting better with the
Right.
insurance, right?
Any other business? Anything else come up?
Actually, Mike Donahue had given you an update on the turning basin. We are currently $1.5 million short to complete that project. And it was being taken up at the state today. I haven't heard the results yet. But as soon as I do, I'll let you know.
Okay.
And the state, I think, has to put some seed money in there to make it work. And that's what Gina was explaining to me anyway. So I think that's what he's trying to sell to the state at this point.
And the grounds on Little Bay Road and back, that the water level of the mock pond be reduced. So I believe you,
I think we'll get a plank out of there now, let's wait till this, see how it goes.
Last year, we had a
I'm afraid
complaint.
we take too many, as you pointed out, Mark, I think we take too many planks out there, we're gonna have a mud flat in there.
Right.
And it'll be nothing but mosquito haven.
Why do they want the water level reduced?
the town engineers told us that years ago, of course, it was forest all in there. And when the houses came in, they cleared their land. In clearing the land, all of the trees that originally sucked up the water were not there anymore, and the water went into their basements. So the selectmen are trying to work with the residents, did pull out one of the
Planks.
planks in the gate
I've seen
at
that.
that point, right, to try to help the problem. But the problem still persists, and of course, in the springtime, it's the worst. A lot
It was
of-
water
a
table's
dry
high.
season too, you know, I mean, and there's not, that pond isn't that deep.
Right, and you have also in a butter right next to the pond that in the summertime says the odor is really bad when we lower it too much.
I think we just leave it the way it is, with the one, we were gonna put the plank in, we didn't put it in, I think we should just wait and talk with the engineer about it again, and just see how it goes.
Well, there's wildlife in there too, there's turtles, there's ducks,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
geese, so, you know, we need to consider, you know, if we reduce the water level, what does that do to them?
Right, good point.
The school kids painted turtles and put them back in it. Now that I think of it, a couple of years ago, yeah,
There's a lot of trouble.
yeah. Anything else? Folks, have anything else? Thank you for coming and staying with us.
We have to, vote for chairman, tonight?
Oh, yeah, we usually have this is a meeting we usually put a chairman, and historically, it's the member who's in his last year of his term, and that was you, Mr. Marconi,
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to nominate you to stay on the chair, he does an excellent job since I've been here. And I'd like to keep you on the chair.
I'd second that.
thank you.
Thank you, Bob, I appreciate that.
I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nice going.
Thank you all very much for having, I've enjoyed it, I enjoy working with Martha and Ella, and the fire engineers, police commissioners and all, and look forward to a great year ahead of,
Yep.
this people.
Worked out well in the past, you can continue with it.
Right.
We adjourned, Mr. Chairman?
Adjourn?
Have you ever made a motion yet?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Active, but you.
Martha, I reached out to the vendor on the KME. I will have the breakdown of putting half down, with a contract associated with that, and we get the numbers. So we should get that to me tomorrow, so I'll forward it right on.
Thank you.
So they are just, so essentially, right, they essentially divide up the nation. So Bulldog is the top KME dealer in the nation. So they deal with everything as far north as Maine, all of Pennsylvania. KME is manufacturing, it's in Pennsylvania, so they have all of this stuff.
Night, Ann.
But yeah, so as soon as I get it, I will forward
Please
it
all on the table.
I didn't know she was gonna do
on.
that.
Some light reading.
Yeah.
I don't like surprises.
Can I take these?
That in.
Any copies or just take them?
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Congratulations, sir.
You don't really mean that.
Me what?
You're nice to see me.
It is always good to see you. It is.
Where does the average citizen get a nice fancy like that?
Carry.
Well, it doesn't show, you know, like,
Oh, it's still, yeah.